Economics of immigration, that's a subject that's not really being talked enough about during these debates about immigration. Everything we talk about is a very emotional issue. We look at TV, and all we see is people running across the border. But there's so much more to immigration that really is not getting out there for people to start considering. We keep hearing that immigrants are bad for our economy. Immigrants are taking away jobs, but that's not true. If you look at Commerce just announced today that this last quarter, the economy grew 4.8%, one of the fastest it's grown in the last 3 years. Jobs. Last year, in the last 12 months, 2 million jobs were created in the U.S., and 2/3 of those jobs were higher-paying jobs. Over the last 30 months, 5 million jobs have been created. Our economy is exploding. And right now, when you have an exploding economy, you need those people who are going to do those jobs that most people don't want to do. Many people keep saying that we're hurting the middle-class American. Right now, we're not training our kids to pick fruit. We're not training our kids to clean toilets. We're not training our kids to bus tables. And I guess a good way to put this out there is that we're training our kids on computers. And a way of kind of just bring it back home is, when's the last time you tried to get a teenager to mow your yard? And how much does that cost you? When I was mowing yards, I would charge $4 or $5 and I was very, very happy. You're going to get at least $30, $40 to get a teenager to mow your yard right now, because that's just what we're teaching them, is that they're not into that basic manual labor. So we need folks who will do that. I know someone talked about earlier about remittances. Also, when you think of immigrants, a recent study by Barron's magazine said that the underground economy, when most of it being fueled by illegal immigration, is about $970 billion a year that we're not capturing. That's when we think about immigration, we've got to have a comprehensive plan to bring them out of the shadows, because we can bring that economy out of the shadows. Just the taxes alone on that $970 billion would be $300 billion a year. So those folks who argue that immigrants are depleting our sources, our resources, like for education, hospitalization, we could capture all of that if we were able to bring them out of the shadows. And many of the folks do not actually seek medical help because of the anti-immigration tone that's going on right now. Also, immigrants aren't just are many things. They're consumers. Right now, the U.S. Latino market is $720 billion a year. 40% of the Latino market are immigrants. If you take half of that, you're talking almost $100 billion a year. So I don't think we want to take that out of our economy. Our economy is not growing in a vacuum. It's growing by everybody contributing. The Latino businesses grew at 3 times the rate of the national average. By the year 2010, 1 out of every 10 businesses will be a Latino-owned business that will be generating $480 billion a year. That's a powerful number. And many of these folks actually work with, and actually a lot of their income comes from the immigrant market. And again, that's something we got to start considering, how much you want to take out of our market if you want to do that. Social Security. In 2 years, baby boomers start hitting Social Security. 77 million people will start retiring in 2 years. Social Security system, and by 2015, will start going in the red. By 2040, it's supposed to be bankrupt. Illegal immigrants will be contributing $500 billion a year to $500 billion total between 1997 and 2022. Immigrants bring a lot of diversity. Not just diversity of money to our economy, they bring diversity of thought and diversity of how to get things done. We keep talking about spreading the American ideas of democracy and freedom throughout Latin America. A lot of these folks come here for that American dream, come here for no other reason. They have that American dream of providing for their families, providing their own businesses. Wouldn't we like to have them take that American dream back to other parts in Latin America? Because people, they're from those areas, they go back and see their families in those areas, and that would be the best way to build those economies, is through entrepreneurship. That's one thing this country has that many countries don't have. That small business, they have rules, they have a capitalist economy. So that's something we would like people to take back and export back to their countries.
One thing we know is that the U.S. economy is incredibly complex, and so trying to pin down the effects of immigration on the economy is a very technical and difficult exercise. So it's very difficult to look at any one trend in the U.S. economy and say, this is the result of immigration. Immigrants are currently about 15% of the U.S. labor force. They make up 20% of the low-wage labor force, and I think that's the picture that many people have in their minds when they think about contemporary immigration. But immigrants make up far, far higher percentages of a number of highly skilled population and sectors of the economy that require high education. If the U.S. labor force is to grow at all by even one person going forward, net, that person will be foreign born. So immigration is a tremendously important part of the prospects for growth in this economy. The United States is able to attract skilled people because of the openness of our economy. 1/2 of all the skilled immigrants in the industrialized countries are in the United States. And I think it is hard to argue with the idea that this economy benefits enormously from them. The suppression of wages, the idea of that is extremely controversial. Economists look at exactly the same data and come to radically different conclusions. Many studies continue to find that there is little or no impact on native-born wages overall. Nonetheless, intuitively, I think we can all sort of appreciate that in certain sectors of the economy, there has been holding back, at least, of wage growth in the construction industry, for example, and these effects are among those that have made housing affordable for millions of Americans and indeed have contributed to the housing boom. Job displacement, I think, is a fact, but job displacement for native-born Americans is often job displacement up. It's displacement to better jobs, to higher-paying jobs. It's not so much that immigrants are filling jobs that Americans won't do, but jobs that Americans don't have to do any longer because they have alternatives. On the other side, there are a whole very powerful set of economic effects on job creation, job preservation, openings on the trade front, which again contribute to job creation, and of course the overall competitiveness and economic dynamism of the country. Immigration contributes both by keeping jobs in the United States, the availability of low-wage labor, retain jobs for more highly skilled native-born and legal immigrant workers. And, of course, highly skilled immigrants help keep the United States at the cutting edge in science and technology. Legislation, of course, is currently the very sort of hot topic in Washington. 3 things I think that it absolutely must do. One is to do something about the 11 or 12 million people who are here without any legal status, about 65% of whom are in the labor force, and who could contribute more than they do if they had legal status. The second is a way for employers to ascertain, a practical way for employers to ascertain the identity and the authorization to work of the people that they hire. Those of you who are employers, I'm sure, understand well that the current law is unenforceable. And the third essential task of immigration reform is to set up a way to meet the continuing needs of the U.S. labor market for the workers that our growing economy demands. Any law or any policy whose success depends on defeating both human ingenuity and market forces is doomed to failure. And that is something that we must keep in the forefront of the attention of our legislatures at this crucial moment.
The challenges we face as a state and a country are only going to get more difficult. That I ultimately think this is a debate about our values, not just the economy. And I'm seeing this in the area I represent, the Bradenton area. You just described it in more elegant terms than I can. It used to be fruit pickers, and now their children are putting on roofs. And what's really exciting is their grandchildren want to be scientists and engineers and teachers and physicians. Maybe we need some more lawyers too. So this is a marvelous opportunity for us. It is an enormous temptation for politicians to play games with this particular issue. I think here in Florida, it's as critical an issue as any state. Well, here in Florida, we're all from somewhere else, and what binds us together is our values, and we treat people with respect. So I think that the successful ingredients to getting a bill through the United States Senate, and ultimately something the President can sign, is a bill that says, if you are here, we will treat you with respect, but you have to respect our laws. Successful bill starts with controlling the borders better, with technology and manpower, but we have to be honest with ourselves, it will not be a solution. But secondly, having a guest worker program with a path to citizenship. And in my personal view, anyone who is here among the undocumented workers that Kathy mentioned should not go to the front of the line. They ought to get in line with the folks that are already waiting. And then we're going to have to deal with the issue of people that do not choose to take the path to citizenship and how we deal with the folks that want to hire them. I am hopeful, but far from certain, that the kind of thoughtful discussion we're having here today might actually occur in Washington. And if so, I think something can be done, and I think something should be done this year. It will get much more difficult, obviously, as we get closer to the election.